Bioeconomy has a key role to play in rectifying the disease of the Earth and can facilitate planetary health. Now, I would like to tell you a little story which I hope will not offend you. Some years ago, we launched in Africa, in 5 African countries, an initiative of innovation competitions. We announced in 5 African countries and dozens of local languages, if you have an innovation to share, please share it. The 3 winners get a motorbike each, if you are willing to share it. And in each country, between 10 and 50 and 80 really great innovations, indigenous, local innovations came forward. And we distributed the motorbikes and so on, but the research team was very sad. It was old men and old women which had put forward the winning innovations. Where are the young ones? So we were running the competition again, specifically asking young people to bring forward their innovations. And the harvest was very thin, very small. So that speaks to your opening address. You need intergenerational dialogue in order to bring in the innovations. Indigenous local innovations may come out of dialogues between the grandma, grandpa, and children and grandchildren. So it's a community affair. Then there is another big field, and I will close with that, a big field where youth play an absolutely key role. That is in the vibrant, growing startup scene. I believe in the next bioeconomy summits we should have lots of pitching sessions where youth come with their innovations, bring them forward. Investors in the row and investing in those who make a convincing pitch for bioeconomy innovations, such as transforming the rural energy system from the current biomass waste and unhealthy system in many low and middle income countries, and innovations in new proteins, and innovations in behavioral change. So you name it. This is a very vibrant scenery. I've just been in China, and I know this is growing very fast. The startup scenery. I have seen pitching sessions of the African Food Summit, the one in last year in Tanzania and this year in Kigali. So it exists, but we need to bring in bioeconomy there. Thank you for your attention, and I look forward to the debate.
Thank you so much, Professor Van Braun, for these inspiring opening remarks. And thank you also for highlighting the importance of an intergenerational dialogue and also entrepreneurship, innovation, and youth activities in that. We have an entrepreneur in our midst, so we will definitely get into that later in the next segment. But
absolutely. And thank you so much. I really appreciated also the need to match more traditional, more indigenous knowledge, our grassroots knowledge, with more innovation and youth are at the forefront of this, at the heart of this, right? So, but let me now introduce our first segment of this event. So I'm now calling in our head of culture and events at the World Food Forum, Lindsay Hook, please come with us, who will lead us in the first panel together with Isabella Garcia Caffaro, ESCGB Youth Champion, and Eli Shantar, EU Bioeconomy Ambassador. Let's give applause to them, yes. So, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. I think we can have a seat since we'll be here for a few minutes. Welcome. I'm so happy to see so many faces here of all ages. That's exactly what this is all about, and that's why we're here. So this segment is going to be very different than what you're all generally used to, which we're very excited for, and I'm very grateful also for these two wonderful women here with me who were open enough to do this different segment with me. So I would like you all to raise your hands if you've ever done an improvisation acting class. Anyone? Oh, okay. More than we thought. I love to see this. Okay, so today you're going to be part of another one. So if you've ever done an improv acting class, you know that there are two main elements. One of them is role play and the other are keywords. There are many other elements involved, but we will be focusing on those two today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw some keywords at our very brave ladies here. So and then they have only 5 minutes each to respond, really fully embodying those keywords and explaining them to us. And then afterwards, we're going to shorten those keywords even more into elevator pitches. And we are going to need 2 people from the audience to be policymakers that we meet in an elevator. So I'd like 2 of you to start thinking, all of you to start thinking about who's going to raise their hand in the most enthusiastic way. So we call on you later to come up here and join us in the elevator where we will pitch our ideas to you. So looking forward to that later. But let's get started. So Isabel, I'd like to start with you. Your 2 keywords to embody and help us enter into the world of those keywords with you are youth and bioeconomy. Go for it.
Thank you. So first of all, I'd like to thank all of you. We really were nervous and we thought that we did have some competition, but I am glad to see that the room is full. So thank you. Okay, so I am an AICGB Youth Champion. First of all, I'd like to talk a little bit about who we are, and then I would like to address these 2 keywords. So the AICGB Youth Champions are a global network that comprise like 18 different nationalities. And the idea is to connect, right? So we do know that the definition of bioeconomy is different in every region, in every country, and in every reality. So the idea is to like connect all in the globe, and to have something like a global vision, and specifically a youth global vision, right? Because our vision sometimes is a little bit different than the specific definition, right? So if you are youth, so we count youth in 18 to 35 years old. So if you're youth, please join us. And if you're not, you're always allowed to come here, and we like the intergenerational dialogue. So yeah. And we will have our community out on the tomorrow. So you will have a launch event and all that stuff. So please see it. We will be very glad for that. Okay, so youth. We emphasize the need for youth inclusion, right? The youth inclusion bioeconomy strategies ensuring that young voices are heard, but they are heard in policy and decision-making processes, not only to be in the hot seat and be on a speech, but we want to be on the decision-making processes. As far as we know, Costa Rica, that's in Central America country, is the only country that has actively included youth and indigenous people in their strategy formulation. So they did like this discussion with youth and with indigenous people. They invite them in and they like ask them their perspective of the future. So we envision a world where we would have our strategies and our country strategies and our regional strategies, where youth and indigenous people are like in the center and a key player, right? We also advocate for the creation of mentoring and capacity building programs where youth can gain the skills, but also the experience we need to innovate and become new leaders. Because we need help, right? We need training. So regarding that, we call for dedicated funding initiatives also and resources to support youth-led groups and youth bio-based entrepreneurship. Because sometimes funding is really hard. We have to go scouting for funding, and in youth groups, there are a lot of different youth groups that we don't have funding, we don't have that much help, so yeah. So this would enable us to launch projects of impact and participate in high-profile discussions with policymakers. We also want to emphasize the need for global collaboration. This is very important. We think that we need to have a global perspective. This opens doors to engage youth in cross-border partnerships, but foster knowledge exchange and drive global solutions for a sustainable bioeconomy. So that's our vision.
That was 4 minutes. Let's give her a round of applause. Amazing, amazing work. It was really good to hear about your points about youth and also the opportunities that they need to be given in bioeconomy and make sure that they are there to seize the day. And I really hope you meet someone with a lot of funding in the elevator later. So we're looking at all of you. Okay, so next I would like to hand it over to you, Haley. So your two keywords are youth in bioeconomy policy and education.
Okay.
Go.
No pressure. So I'll first start off by also introducing ourselves. So I'm Haley Chantar, I'm from Malta. I'm also part of the EU Bioeconomy Youth Ambassadors, and we have two more EU Bioeconomy Youth Ambassadors back there, Ogna and Olivia. Yes, give them a round of applause. So we're a group of 15 EU Bioeconomy Youth Ambassadors chosen by the European Commission, and our role is basically to spread the word about bioeconomy within our communities, also represent youth in general, so be the voice of youth when it comes to bioeconomy, and also be the bridge between youth and the European Commission as they, work really hard to form these bioeconomy policies. With that being said, a short, brief introduction into who I am, just for context. So apart from being an EU Bioeconomy Youth Ambassador, I also just graduated with my law degree now, my bachelor's in law. I'm also, I think, a climate activist, a young farmer, and also a podcast host of the world's first bioeconomy podcast, Bioeconomy Matters. So now, with regards to my pitch on these two keywords. So we have youth and bioeconomy policymaking. So something which we discussed in our bioeconomy youth vision was that youth are often underrepresented with regards to decision making. So looking at the EU, because of course I'm an EU bioeconomy youth ambassador, so looking at the European Union, when you look at the members of the European Parliament, the average age is over 44 years. The average age is over 44 years. That's pretty high in the most respectful manner. And the thing is, okay, so the people are voting for these representatives, right? So it's the citizens that chose these people. But why are they choosing older people? And this is something I would like to, highlight when I have to do my elevator pitch on solutions, as to why we don't have many youth candidates in order to represent our visions. So this is the first part of youth being underrepresented in bioeconomy youth policy making, but also in general. And then with regards to education, so as you know, like the world is becoming more and more of like very concise. We have people moving from one place to another. This global identity, and it also is relevant in our education. It's becoming more and more interdisciplinary. So, for instance, I studied law, but I studied global law, and this is something that years ago, like the time of my parents, for instance, they didn't have programs, which is global law, it's just national law. So the world is coming, in terms of education, also more and more interdisciplinary. And this is something which we should also incorporate with regards to bioeconomy, by teaching the next generation of engineers, architects, the role that bioeconomy and the climate has to play in their fields as well. So, for instance, in the fashion industry, having courses with regards to textiles, the bio-based textiles and sustainable fashion, with regards to economists, businessmen, finance degrees, you have climate finance and bioeconomy and green economy. What role does that have to play in our economy? So having this interdisciplinary approach in our education, but I'll speak about more of that in my elevator pitch. So vote for me.
Great job. 3 minutes. You are both doing amazing. Okay, so I think these two introductions were a really great way to get us started, and I'm really happy to hear about all of your experience and even just what you mentioned about having more interdisciplinary and more broad programs, even in universities, could help actually maybe be one of those solutions to make sure that we have younger people on the ballots in the EU and other places to make sure that youth do have that seat at the decision-making table. So, we're ready for the next part, which is my personal favorite part. So I would like to ask two people from the audience, possibly a man and a woman, so we make sure that we have the gender equality, to be our two policymakers, which we will meet in the elevator. Anyone? Any takers? Raise your hands. I know we have some interested people. Okay, I'm going to pick on someone then. Are you sure you want me to do this? Okay. I noticed that we had someone in. Oh, okay, yes, you. Come on up. We have a taker. Let's give him a round of applause. Okay. What's your name?
My name is Khaled.
Khaled, okay. Very nice to meet you, Khaled. So I am just going to take you and Isabella, and we're going to come over here and we're going to go up to, I don't know, maybe the 15th floor. It's a pretty tall building. I think that's enough time for about a 30-second elevator pitch. So ding dong. Okay, we're walking in the elevator. We're walking in, we're all in here. And so Khaled, you are a policymaker of making sure that you are the Minister of Youth. Where are you from?
I'm from Yemen, but I'm based in Belgium.
Okay, perfect. So you can be the Minister of Youth of both of those countries. It's now one role. So thank you so much for being with us here in the elevator today. So Isabella, over to you.
Okay, hi, how are you?
Hello, how are you? Good
Fine.
morning.
Good morning. So I'm a youth ambassador and I would like to pitch you my idea for our things we need help on.
All right, I'm
Yeah?
all ears.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay, so how much?
policy maker,
Okay, so we call on global leaders to take action in 5 main points, right? First, ensure bioeconomy education is accessible worldwide. Second, allocated dedicated funding for youth-led initiatives. Third, establish regional innovation hubs. Fourth, focus support for rural and indigenous youth. And active youth involvement in all bioeconomy decision-making. As a global diverse group, we have witnessed the incredible impact and strength of international collaboration. So please help us empower the next generation.
Okay, Khaled, give us 2 things that you liked about her pitch. Are you convinced?
Please tell yes. Tell me yes.
yeah, she was like straightforward, telling me exactly about the point. And I think, yeah, it was straightforward, clear. She was speaking a little bit too fast, but
I got
that's
too
normal.
nervous.
But I think it was clear to the point, and that's how it should be. It's a very short time. Just give the key message of what you talk. And, yeah. Thank you, Isabella.
Thank you.
We arrived to the 15th floor. Let's go.
Yeah. Thank you for your time.
It was great to have you with us. So many high-level guests with us today. Okay, so now we need a brave woman to come up here and be Haley's policymaker. Any takers? Takers, come on, you saw it was fun. You saw it was fun. Anybody? Anybody? We just made eye contact. Now it's you. Now it's you. We made eye contact. Give her a round of applause. Okay, what's your name?
Ngozi.
And where are you from?
I'm from Nigeria, but I came in from the UK.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. So we have another joint minister.
Ah.
A new phenomenon we have here. Okay, so I'm going to put you both in the elevator. We're going to go back to the 15th floor. I think that was a good amount of time last time. So ding dong, leaving you in here to make sure that she hears everything that she needs to know. Minister of Youth and Education.
Youth and Education. Okay, noted. Hi, nice to meet you. My name is Haley.
Hi, my name is Ngozi.
Oh, I noticed you're also the Minister of Youth and Education, right?
Yeah, I am.
Oh, perfect. Just who I needed to talk to.
Okay.
So right now I noticed that the average age of the members of the European Parliament, let's pretend you're from an EU country.
Yeah, true.
The average age is over 44. And as a Minister of Youth, I was wondering, why are youth not represented so much in politics?
Okay. But do we have youth contesting? So maybe.
Yeah, exactly. That is the problem. So I have a solution for you. And I think we can really help each other. So I have 3 solutions of how we can help youth come to contest in elections. So first of all, it's harder for youth to be nominated by the political parties, so more trust when it comes to that. And the trust would also come from the mentorship from people who have already contested and have experience in this, and who can also introduce them to their contacts, because after all, networking is part of being a politician. And the third part is the financial aspect. So running for elections is very expensive, especially when you're just starting out. So it's very expensive for a youth to represent youth opportunities and decisions within the parliament. So what do you think? Should we collaborate? Almost at the 15th floor?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Great job. You hit the question.
Yeah, like that was
Oh
just
my
yeah, but that's good also, because it's also good to ask a question to ignite someone a response. So I think I love you starting off with a question, because it's made me to think, okay, she asked me a question, and what should I say just to be diplomatic about it? So,
Or not,
so that was
or
nice.
not. Well,
Yeah.
We can do that later in the hot seat. Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay, ladies. You've done an amazing job. I think we have 2 very convinced policymakers that we met in the elevator. And thank you to both of them for standing up and doing that. Do we have anything else to add? No? Okay, I was afraid you were gonna throw it back at me. So at least I got to escape from this one, maybe?
No, I think not. You won't escape. So it's
No.
your turn.
Okay, I
So
can't
you
walk
have
away
to
from this
pitch.
one.
Yeah.
Okay, then in this case, if I also have to pitch, I'm looking for a minister of culture.
No.
No?
Oh, okay, so I'm going to pick you.
Okay, pick my minister.
So who would want to be a policymaker to put Lindsay on the test and on the spot? Okay, someone tough, please.
They want to challenge me.
Oh, I like it. So who? Peter? Woo!
What floor are we going to? The 15th again? Okay.
The 16th
The
floor.
16th?
Yeah.
Oh!
Don't give her more.
Now she's gonna say 14th. Okay. Ding dong. Hi, I really like your lanyard. That looks really great. I'm Lindsay.
Good morning. Very nice to
Nice to
meet you.
meet you. Nice to meet you. I'm here at this
What are you
conference.
working on?
I'm here at this conference as a part of the World Food Forum, which is a project of FAO that aims to transform agri-food systems through young people. And I realized that I think we need to be talking about culture a little bit more in what we're doing, and really putting the culture back into agriculture, which is of course a large creator of biomass for bioeconomy. And I think by combining the 2 things in projects like fashion, getting fish waste or different kind of agricultural waste methods into transforming things into products like jackets or shoes made with apple leather, and all these things could be a really great way to kind of get us back into thinking in a different way and really raise awareness in a different way about bioeconomy, putting the culture into it as well. What do you
Sounds
think?
great. I have a wish for you.
Okay.
Maybe you could organize in one of our next conferences then a fashion show connecting showcasing the bioeconomy and bio-based textiles.
Okay, that's perfect. We actually did that at FAO with the team, the Bioeconomy team, last year. So we will do it again at the Bioeconomy Summit next year. So I'll see you all there.
Great, wonderful.
Okay, so was Lindsay convincing? Yeah?
I think so.
I loved it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I like to start with a compliment because everyone likes to be complimented. That was my hook, which is also my last name. But you both had your hooks, I also had mine. So thank you so much for this wonderful panel. I think it's safe to say that we all had a great time with this one. Was really something to change it up. So I'm happy that it worked out for us all. And I would love to pass it back to our two wonderful moderators and getting onto the hot seat.
Well, that was amazing. Yeah. Thank you so much. You are so convincing. Lindsay, Haley, Isabella, you did really a fantastic job.
Yes, I had a lot of fun watching it, honestly. Personally, I hope you were same. But now, what are we gonna do?
It's time for my favorite element.
Okay.
So this is the hot seat. So we would like to invite our panelists. Okay, we have Peter Werheim from the European Commission, where he is head of unit on food systems and bioeconomy. Please, Peter,
Have a seat,
take
Peter.
a seat. We have Lisa Kengren from the IGB Youth Champions. Lisa, please take a seat as well. We have Dr. Davis, CEO of Giraffe Bioenergy and implementer of the bioeconomy in Kenya. Warm applause. I would also like to invite Haley back.
So they moderate this and we can ask you questions.
All right, then Lev Naratin, please. Lev is head of the environment team at FAO and also leads the work on bioeconomy. And finally, George Platt, a young policymaker from Northern Ireland and also a member of the World Food Forum Youth Policy Board.
Woohoo! Well, amazing. So in this segment, we are gonna go through 4 of the main themes that actually were highlighted during the first interactive discussion, recalling what are the barriers that youth are facing in the bioeconomy transition. So first, we're gonna go through education and entrepreneurship. We're gonna move to policy as the enabling environment for youth engagement. Then inclusiveness and just transition. I'm so happy that both Ailey and Isabella brought up the topic. And then for enhanced global collaboration in bioeconomy space, right?
Exactly. So
Nice.
maybe just before we get started, a kind reminder to our panelists and also our audience. This is the hot seat, but please remain respectful, kind, open, honest. This is a constructive dialogue, a safe space, all these things. And finally, please be concise because we want to engage everyone here. I'm sure that everyone has burning questions. With that, I can get started.
Yeah. I think we can get started with education and entrepreneurship. So we have heard in the previous discussion how much education is important for empowering youth in the bioeconomy, but we are still some gaps, right? So especially when it comes to the geographic dimension of education and access to education in different regions. So that said, we are increasingly seeing higher education opportunity in bioeconomy, and this is happening especially in Europe, and we see that. So I would like to hear, especially from Haley and from Lisa, how do you perceive this gap, and particularly, what are the geographical differences that you are seeing in education and access to education?
Okay, hi everybody. I am Kengran Lisa. I'm originally from Cameroon, but I am doing my master's in food security at the University of Edinburgh in Scotland. So I'm going to be speaking from an African perspective. When it comes to bioeconomy education in Africa, I think, to my knowledge, only about 6 African countries have working initiatives on bioeconomy right now. And just a few minutes ago, I was talking to some youths out there. I just asked them, like, what do they know about youth involvement in bioeconomy in Africa? And they were like, they are still trying to understand what bioeconomy really is and incorporating it in the African context. So I think our institutions, our academic institutions, have not yet incorporated bioeconomy or bioeconomy courses into our programs. And me personally, I never knew about bioeconomy until I moved to Europe last year and I saw a call for Bioeconomy Youth Champions, and I was like, oh, what is this Bioeconomy Youth Champion? I did my research on bioeconomy, and coming from an agricultural background, I know that the interrelationship between bioeconomy and agriculture is very close. And now I am a bioeconomy youth champion. So I think our academic organizations can do better and incorporate bioeconomic courses right from secondary school. Thank you.
So I actually have a similar story with regards to how I came to know bioeconomy. I learned about bioeconomy through the call EU Bioeconomy Youth Ambassadors. So I came across it and I was like, oh, what's bioeconomy? So I researched what bioeconomy is and I was like, oh, actually I've been involved in bioeconomy for quite a while. I mean, almost all my life, being grown up on a farm. And that's when I realized that of what bioeconomy is and how it's present in our everyday lives. But with regards to Malta, we don't really have specialties. So when you think of Europe, usually it's thought of like, oh, Europe is quite advanced when it comes to bioeconomy, but there's also differences, geographical differences, back to your question, when it comes to bioeconomy, even in Europe, and with regards to education. So in Malta, we only have like one actual university that we go to. There's also the American University of Malta, but we usually go to the University of Malta. Our programs are not as specialized as, for instance, bioeconomy, and even in law, it's just national law, and you just have medicine, you just have dentistry, which only takes 5 students a year. So it's really just enough programs to really keep our society going. So we don't have specialized programs such as bioeconomy. And also our curriculum has not changed in the past years, has remained the same. I was actually talking to the ambassador of Malta to the Netherlands, actually, a few weeks ago. And we were comparing our curriculum back in 6th form, so the last 2 years of high school. And we had very similar subjects. And he is over 20 years older than me. So that goes to show that even though society is changing, society is evolving, our education system is not, at least not in Malta. That's what I can speak for. And I also studied in the Netherlands, so I can speak a bit about that. So there's also the lack of hands-on experience when it comes to, for instance, internships and really applying what you know. It's more theory-based. So at least what I try to do to really help bring bioeconomy to Malta, first of all, is the podcast. It has a global audience, over 1,000 listeners so far. But then with regards to Malta specifically, I translated a children's book from English to Maltese about bioeconomy. So hopefully we can soon go around schools teaching students, because after all, education starts, from a young age, doesn't always have to be at university level. So hopefully we can bridge that geographical gap.
Thank you so much. Exactly, give them a warm applause. So I think that this ties in nicely with maybe something that I would like to ask Peter. So Peter, we know that that the EU is investing heavily in education in bioeconomy, but we've also just heard that differences remain even within the EU, but also outside the EU and more geographical differences. So how does the EU support overcoming these differences and make sure that equal access remains for all youth on bioeconomy? And how can you support initiatives like Haley's on children books on bioeconomy? Over to you.
Thank you. First, I was wondering why you have invited me also as a senior person to this panel. But I'm discussing the issues at stake here, I would say, on a daily basis with my own teenagers, 4 teenagers becoming young adults. And they are all at the brink between school and universities. And they all say, Daddy, I do not want to become like you. I do not want to sit in front of a computer all day long. So I tell them, okay, become bioeconomy entrepreneurs. But then we are also looking at university programs, and I have studied agricultural science, agriculture economics, and that was the old way. But now bioeconomy, I think, is a new way of including the holistic perspective of the bioeconomy into educational programs, looking at all dimensions of sustainability. And I think this really can change the thinking of young people. But then if we look at what programs we have available in Europe, we have made significant progress, I would say, in having more bioeconomy specific educational programs, but there are still huge gaps. But you are studying Edinburgh. One of the study programs I came across was indeed entrepreneurship in the bioeconomy, which is a master's in Edinburgh. Fantastic, yeah. So this is really concrete example where you are linking the two issues. But where we still have gaps is in entrepreneurship training. I discussed it with Johan Lieberton. I think in the United States we have more universities, we have educational programs, but they are also linked with innovation ecosystems, and I think there we still need to make progress. We have supported at European level this through various activities. We have the European Bioeconomy University Alliance, which is next door, celebrating its 5th year anniversary. But these are universities exclusively or mainly from Western Europe. We have also seen that there is a gap in Central and Eastern European countries. And we have what is called the BioEast initiative, and there we also have the BioEast UniNet, which is bringing together 6-7 universities. So there is progress, I would say, in setting up bioeconomy specific programs all across Europe, but still much more needs to be done. Joachim, you have mentioned that we need to do more on startups. What gives me hope is that my next commissioner carries in her title not only research and innovation, but as a third element, startups, research, innovation, and startups. And I hope that we will have more and better news to present in 2026 at the GBS in Ireland on how also Europe can support green startups to give you, the young generation, more opportunities.
Wow, thank you so much, Peter. Wow. And bringing a bit everything together, so thank you very much also for touching upon the entrepreneurship and the need for more youth entrepreneurship in the bioeconomy, which is something that also Haley touched upon, and also Professor Joachim von Braun touched upon in his remarks. And this brings me to a new part of this session, more entrepreneurship. And we have today a forefront of bioeconomy implementation in Kenya. So Dr. Linda Davis, so you are a true bioeconomy practitioner, but you're also a female entrepreneur. And you surely face many barriers yourself in entrepreneurship, I guess. So based on this, what kind of education and skills do you think are essential for youth for engaging in the bioeconomy industries? And what advice you may have for young people to try enter the private sector in the bioeconomy?
Thank you for that question. I guess I'm the one representing the old African woman on this panel. So I'd like to speak in the Kenyan context, right? So firstly, we don't have a choice in Kenya. We don't have a choice in Africa. 60% of Africa is under 25, of the population is under 25, and 1 billion youth in 2050. So we don't have a choice. You might have heard recently about the Kenyan youth going to the streets and demanding a voice at the table, right? So, madam, right? So in Kenya, it's really not a question of how do we incorporate the youth. The youth is standing up, and old African women like me either have to accommodate these voices or just step aside. So I've decided I will be part of the solution. We will work with the youth in Kenya and see how we can develop a bioeconomy. So I'm the founder of Giraffe Bioenergy, and our mission is to develop agricultural systems in rural Kenya, rural bioeconomies to produce ethanol cooking fuel, which is emerging as a clean, safe, affordable cooking solution. Many of you know that 80-90% of sub-Saharan Africans use charcoal and biomass for cooking. Now, we're saying that bioeconomy can be a real solution if we implement it correctly. If we look to our brothers and sisters in the East who are doing cassava to ethanol cooking systems, we can do the same. In Africa, specifically in Kenya, we've got vast amount of land. We've got youth who are unemployed, as I mentioned. They've taken to the streets in Kenya, right? We've got the demand for ethanol cooking fuel. And most importantly, we've got a reason, right? Cooking with biomass and charcoal and firewood is destroying our environment. It's the leading driver of deforestation in Africa, right? And when you look at from climate standpoint, cooking, just cooking, the very acts that women in Africa and in many parts of the world do to show that they care for their family is the very thing that's going to kill them. And it is the very thing second to motor fuel emissions that is a leading cause of greenhouse gases. So the bioeconomy really is a cross-cutting solution to really support specifically African people and specifically as Kenyans. And this is the reason why we exist, the Giraffe Bioenergy, right? So to answer your question very, very specifically, it is a moral imperative. We must absolutely implement the bioeconomy for one reason. Let me just speak about one reason, and that is it will help with jobs. Right? It will help with providing those livelihoods for the young people who in Kenya have said enough is enough. Step away, old people. We want jobs. We are tired of graduating from university and not getting jobs. So what we're saying is if we can get bioeconomies, right, it has a potential to create thousands and thousands of jobs, right? So specifically what we're doing is we are linking rural agriculture. We heard in the plenary today that is the older generation that are working the land, right? But if we provide a market and if we provide an engineering solution such as a biorefinery producing ethanol, then the youth might have a reason to go to the land because they have secure offtake, secure livelihood, more improved education in terms of good agricultural practices. So really excited to be part of this, of creating the bioeconomy, starting with Kenya and expanding throughout East Africa using cassava and ethanol cooking fuel, solving a uniquely African problem with an African solution.
Yeah, I see enthusiastic reactions in the public. Same here. So maybe looking at the public, I'm just trying to see if maybe there's someone who would like to intervene at this stage on the education segment. Do you have a burning question for our panelists before we move on? I see one. Here we go. Yes, two.
We talk a lot about implementation, and in the education sector, we often talk about academic education. So what about the vocational training? What about training on the jobs, these kind of things? They're potentially more implementation than just the academic side. I don't want to say we don't need academic education in bioeconomy, but do we miss a sector there?
Great question. Any of our panelists that would like to get back to the question? I can also start. No. No, I can kick out the discussion because we published a report actually in FAO on youth possibilities, youth opportunities in the bioeconomy. And there, our colleagues found that actually if higher education, our education is increasing, possibilities are increasing, vocational trainings are a bit declining, especially in Africa, where we need a lot of workforce on the field, right? So that was an interesting finding from these reports. I'm hoping to kick off the discussion. Am I?
Thank you.
Yes.
I would very much agree that education must not only be academic, but must be also at bioeconomy must also be mainstreamed into respective vocational training programs, but also into primary education, as Eli indicated. We had also children books on what is the bioeconomy, explaining the concept. We will also have a workshop in November in Brussels on bioeconomy education, where vocational training is also an important part. And we need to also develop curricula and blueprints on how this can be taken up by vocational training centers working in the sphere of the bioeconomy.
Thank you very much, Peter. I think, also a lot of hands, So maybe we get the next question, and then Lev can see if we can respond to that one.
Thank you very much. I'm told to say my name first. I'm Alice Kaudia from Stockholm Environment Institute, and also running an NGO called Pristine Sustainable Ecosystems. I have listened so carefully from the plenary and here, and I want to pick the conversation from our young lady from Edinburgh, saying that the bioeconomy in Africa is not very strong, and I totally agree with you. Even when we push for education on the bioeconomy at high school level, believe you me, people aged 50 years in Kenya have no knowledge of traditional plants and animals, their uses, where you find them, how we process them. I know a lot, and I didn't learn that in class. So the drawback I see in my experience are in 5 areas. Number 1 is even lack of interest by the youth. When I tell my grandchild we go to the garden, he will touch the soil and say, oh, it's mud. You see, just that attitude towards nature and the soil is a big drawback. So we need to start socialization from young age that the little ones appreciate nature. Number 2, I find a weak intergenerational connection. There's so much urbanization. The young people are actually in urban areas. They don't like going to the rural. There's no electricity, no water, no good food, no chips, no lasagna. So the dietary change has also withdrawn them from now our natural agroecological systems. And then different learning interests. I think I've had more of podcasts and social media as learning media. What will you do with the rural child who has no access to internet and still needs to learn? So we need to diversify our learning methods and training methods for the young generation. And finally, even the policymakers need to be trained on bioeconomy. Many of those young parliamentarians who should actually be making decisions about budgets to go to bioeconomy have no interest in bioeconomy. They have more interest in other areas, but not in managing nature. Thank you.
Thank you so much for those reflections. I know there's a lot of other burning questions that we're very happy about, but I would like to maybe connect this to also the next theme that was clearly mentioned and mentioned by yourself as well, which is those policymakers and the need for policy to provide that enabling environment. So maybe before we get to our policymaker, I would like to ask our young policymaker, George. So we've heard about the importance of youth involvement in policymaking, but we've also heard that youth are underrepresented. Yet we see often great policies on paper. We know that implementation is an issue. So how can we ensure that youth-driven bioeconomy initiatives move beyond rhetoric to real-world action?
Thanks, Marileek. That's a great question, and it's been great to hear so many from the floor already too. I've worked in youth policy for a few areas over the last few years. I'm currently with the Youth Policy Board of the World Food Forum. So sort of 3 reflections I'd probably share and try to tie them in specifically with bioeconomy too. Firstly, it's too small a thing just to get youth together to come up with policy recommendations. That's relatively easy to do. You can get all the youth together from all the countries, they'll write their Summit of the Future Pact or Global Declaration, and the UN will say, thank you very much, and they'll put it on the fridge in the kitchen. But it's very hard for young people to figure out what's going to happen next. How can we take ownership of this? And I think young people need to push not to just be involved in youth policy, but to be involved in youth delivery. It's not enough just to be in the room where it happens, but what happens after that? How can we still be involved in taking this further and working with these delivery partners? What I've loved about the World Food Forum Youth Policy Board is that we have 24 of us around the world coming up with global food and bioeconomy recommendations, but then we work with the FAO, with our World Food Forum national chapters to try and drive these changes and persuade our partners to do these initiatives. Currently in the year ahead, we'll be working with World Food Forum national chapters in Central Asia, and young policymakers like me will be trying to persuade them to come up with these schemes, such as a Rural Champions initiative, to be driving for change in discarded communities and left behind areas of the world, and try and put forward this vision to counter brain drain and raise a generation of hometown heroes who can really spell out the stories of what it means to be doing the bioeconomy outside of urban areas. Secondly, I think young people also need to learn how to make themselves indispensable in their own local communities first. Like, everyone wants to be a global policymaker, but no one wants to just do community activism, first of all. How come everyone wants to save the world, but no one wants to do the dishes? You know, it's the same idea there. And when you come to the World Food Forum and you meet the young Youth Policy Board members, you'll realize that some of them just have more gravity than others. Some people can make the real policymakers sit up and listen. And that's the ones who've been young farmers, or the ones who started their own agricultural entrepreneurial initiatives. Those are the policymakers and the youth who've got real dirt under their fingernails, who've been out there and been doing the actual business of bioeconomy too, so that they know what they're talking about. It's having these two wings like a plane. You've got your policymaker wing, but also the wing of how you've operated in your own local context. And that really puts a weight behind your words and a gravity behind what you say. You can really make the senior decision makers sit up when you've proved yourself at the local level first. And then my last point is just young people really need to learn how to tell the stories as well of the bioeconomy. I wonder if you've had the experience like me of telling all your friends, guys, I'm going to Nairobi next week for the Global Bioeconomy Summit, and they say, that's great, George, but I've no idea what you're talking about. Well done. What even is that? So I really want us to be in the space where we've been so good at conveying what this is, this new language and grammar and the stories we all have, so that in 4 years' time, when we're all back in Nairobi then, all of our friends will know what exactly we're doing. If you think in my context, in the UK, the biggest policy change we've had in the last century, it was decided at the heart level, not the rational head level. It wasn't through doing a stakeholder analysis or a pros and cons list that we decided to leave the European Union, as it's been alluded to today. That was because we couldn't see ourselves, or 52% couldn't see themselves as part of the bigger story, for better or for worse. And if you don't see yourself as part of the bigger story, and that you have a seat at the table, you'll abdicate that position, and you'll leave a vacuum, and there'll be an absence of a better story to tell. So young people really need to figure out, how can I tell the stories of the bioeconomy in my community, what I'm doing with my biogas generator, or how Blue Finance is working to redevelop these fisheries and train young people. So those are the 3 areas I think young people should be thinking about going forwards. Don't just get involved in youth policy, it's too small a thing, youth delivery as well. Start to think, how can I be indispensable, really valuable in my local community to make the policymakers sit up? And then finally, how can I really tell that story? And how can I pass that on to the next generation after I've turned 30? I mean 40 or something. So I've just turned 30, so I'm joking there. But those are my thoughts. I could speak for so much longer, but I really want to involve the rest of the panel too on this theme of policy. Yeah.
Woohoo! Wow, George, that's, really powerful. This is the feeling from this side of the room, but I guess it's also the same in the room, right? So thank you so much, and thank you also, I'm citing my colleague here, her comment, thank you for putting youth on the spot. So thank you so much. And now, I'm looking at left if he wants to react, because from a global picture, so FAO works a lot on policy support. We support countries and develop also normative instrument in the bioeconomy space, right? So how in this work does FAO ensure that policy instruments are inclusive, ensuring that some of the things that also George mentioned are represented in the policy instruments?
Thank you. and certainly difficult to keep the same spirit after George, and I think it's great comments. So just similar to you, I have 3 points, and maybe I wouldn't be so sophisticated and know as you, but let me start from the first and most important one. To make a policy, you have to be in the corridors of power. This is number one. And this is one of the reasons, again, very practical example, when we as FAO looked at Global Bioeconomy Summit, and we ask ourselves, what would be 2, 3 key issues we want to bring here? And I'm very open with you. Youth was number one. And for that reason, we wanted to support young ambassadors across the board, across different networks, to be here. And not only to listen, but to advocate and to be visible. And as you said, George, I fully agree, indispensable. So that's number one. Number two, policy process is a massive one. It is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And especially when it comes to bioeconomy, why we all kind of use this term of policy coherence, especially from the FAO perspective when it comes to the global bioeconomy policy making, we always say centrality of food and agriculture for any decision we are making on bioeconomy, because this is the start. Who is producing those biomaterials? And the most hard decisions in the short term and long term are done by farmers and for sure by the policymakers which surround them. When we are talking about policy coherence then, bioeconomy comes in so many forms and shape, how we set agricultural policies. We have to talk about multilateral environmental agreements, how we can mobilize youth voice in UNFCCC negotiations, in CBD negotiations. How can we bring youth voice in the Committee on Food Security when we're discussing land tenure guidelines? And the list goes on and goes on. So it certainly requires a very careful and smart approach in this policy coherence. And when you as youth, and we have to help you, obviously, to be at the beginning of this policy setting and to have this longer term commitment. So that's my point number two. And ultimately point number three, that's all I think comes segue to networks. We can't work with the thousands of youth. We need to channel this bioeconomy voices from youth in the right channels. And for that, I think we really need to make an effort now we, for example, are running survey at FAO, global survey run by the World Food Forum. Thousands of youth representatives will be involved. The results of this survey we will be using now we have a mandate from our members to initiate a global multi-stakeholder bioeconomy partnership for sustainable food and agriculture. And this is, I think, where we will be having your voices there. But then, even further, and I'm finishing here, let's not talk about EU Youth Network, or World Food Forum Network, or G20 Youth Network. Let's come together. And this is a challenge, and we are certainly ready to help you, ready to find ways how we not creating those silos also among this youth various networks, but this is responsibility of global entities and multilateral entities as UN, because we work with all these networks, and we need to work together with you how we can make it happen.
Thank you, Lev, and thank you so much for touching upon the importance of partnership. I think what we've been discussing a lot as well is if we work together, we do need to make sure that this is done in an inclusive way. So how can we ensure that this transition of bioeconomy is just? Isabel, maybe you want to... Why is this so important?
No, so we heard I think almost all intervention, the importance of inclusivity and just transition in the bioeconomy. And we are seeing this social angle of the bioeconomy coming up more and more, not just in Latin America, where more and more countries are approaching the bioeconomy from the social angle, the so-called social bioeconomy, right? But also in Europe, with a strong focus on rural development and regional development. But how do we make sure that in the bioeconomy transition, those countries, those regions, those communities that have abundant biological resources, so must be at the forefront of the bioeconomy development, have benefits the most from the bioeconomy, are actually there and are benefit the most. So this is maybe the tricky part of the bioeconomy as I see it. And I want to trigger a bit discussion on this topic. I'm posing a question and I'm posing it to the whole panel, and I hope we can engage in a honest discussion, as it was until now, I guess. So what social conflicts and inequalities may arise from in general, the global North transition to the bioeconomy, and how can we ensure that this transition is equitable and sustainable also for all other regions that are impacted by this transition? I don't know if any of our panelists may want to get started.
No, fantastic. No, that is a great question. And again, I speak from the Kenyan perspective and what we're doing on the ground in rural Kenya. So one of the challenges, and this speaks to the partnerships that we talk about, is I'll illustrate this with the example of tech. We're in a youth conference, so you'd understand tech. When you want to create an app, say Shopify or Uber, right? You don't have to build the underlying infrastructure, right? Google has already figured out location, so you piggyback on location. The US government has already figured out highways, so you don't even have to build that. But in Africa, and certainly what has been my experience, is you come with a specific idea and you realize you have to be in the water business. You have to provide large-scale utility water for irrigation. You have to create the roads or lobby the policymakers to bring roads there. You have to lobby the TVET organizations or universities there to include agricultural curriculum in the education system. This is one person, an entrepreneur like myself, who has to do all these cross-cutting measures. So for us, it really, to make it a just transition, right? The policy has to be coherent, as has been mentioned here, where we're talking about the SDGs altogether, right? When you're talking about poverty, access, equality, those have to happen for the bioeconomy to thrive. Certainly that is true for the Kenyan context, such as entrepreneurs can actually go and make this a reality without having to spend so many hours in the office saying, we want water to come so we can actually develop the agriculture, we can develop the ecosystem. So it's a huge, huge challenge. And unless we look at these issues in partnership, in a nexus approach, water, education, infrastructure, gender, it'll really take a long time, certainly for the African context, to really achieve what we want to do. So that's the challenge that I have. For a just transition, we all have to work together so we can go very far together.
Wow.
Thank you so much, Linda. I would actually like to take your comments and maybe switch to this side of the panel. So we have, maybe starting with Peter, putting you a little bit on the spot here. So you are a policymaker in the global north. So how do you ensure that the policies that you make are holistic and don't exacerbate inequalities, but spur global bioeconomy transition?
That is challenging, but I think, first of all, I would say it's really a very strong point here of this session that we all agree that the bioeconomy must be inclusive, that it must be generate more equality. I think that's an important starting point of our conversation. I would also argue that, well, Camila Pimenta, she used the term the bioeconomy must also be a social bioeconomy, which is a strong point, but I would argue that how that is spelled out is very much context specific. It needs to be spelled out locally, regionally, nationally, how equity, how inclusiveness can be ensured. Nevertheless, we have also heard a couple of generic arguments already this morning in the opening panel, and I think one of the arguments which was brought forward by Pekka Pessonen as a former head of the European Farmers Union, no surprise, was that the primary producers must also be included, for instance, also in the new value-added chains. And I think how this can be done is really context-specific. I've recently had in a bioeconomy event in Brussels, we had a young farmer from the Netherlands speaking. She inherited a dairy farm, and she said she can't expand really the economic activities of her farm if she's doing dairy farming only. So she has learned, she took workshops, and she engaged then in insect farming. Yeah. She is now having a second leg, and these are examples how farmers, but also foresters can be included into these new value-added chains. I think that's really important. But then I would also expect that you, the young generation yourself, can make sure that the bioeconomy is also more inclusive and generates more equality. I think you are a driver of future consumer patterns also, and this also gives me hope. If I look again, looking at my own teenagers, how they want to have sustainable products. They are trying to move and switch to more sustainable diets. These elements can be part of more inclusive and equal bioeconomy, but they also have to come from the bottom. They also have to come. They need to be enshrined in the local bioeconomies.
Thank you so much, Peter. And yes, indeed, we often talk a lot about the offer side of the bioeconomy, right? But the consumer side, also the bioeconomy, the demand in the bioeconomy is really essential. I just want to see if our youth, Lisa and Eli, may want to react to this before maybe opening the floor for questions. Please, always.
Okay, so we're talking about inclusivity, and I think most bioeconomy summits and bioeconomy everything, it's always about people that are able to attend these conferences, people that are able to go there. We forget people that don't have the chance to attend the conferences. We forget about the people that are actually taking care of these bioresources that we have in Africa. So I think we need to go back to the local communities and get them more involved. We need to get the women that go to the farm every day more involved into bioeconomy. We need to get the youth, not just sitting here and talking and then we make a post on LinkedIn and it finishes there. We want to be involved. We want to, like George said, we want to be involved in the delivery. We want to do it. We want to pick up a project. We want you guys to hold our hands and walk us through the process. We want to be able to sit tomorrow and say, oh, we started this from young age. We started this. We need to tell our kids that, oh, this thing, we started it when we were young. We started it and we did it and we delivered. So we actually need to be really inclusive, from the roots, from our local roots.
We have a lot of powerful intervention, and I don't know how to say in English, but I have the, how do you say? Yeah, goosebumps. Wow. Okay, let me now open the floor because we are running out of time and we have so many questions. Maybe first Professor von Braun, because it was...
You are in hot seats, and the heat comes from artificial intelligence. It is unpredictable how the jobs in the future will be. You study law. The legal system will change. You thought it was a safe job. Fortunately, you went into podcasting. You're into agriculture and all sorts of other things. So I think it is extremely important that you think not about today, but about the future of bioeconomy. I believe bioeconomy in its holistic way, the way Peter pointed out, offers job opportunities, but it will be jobs of the future, and it will much fewer jobs than you think.
Apologies. I think maybe we can also get a reflection from the people sitting here. They have their hands high up. One of the youth representatives.
Hello, thank you. Speaking from Asia here. I'm from Thailand, and also my background is in the education. I'm from Kasetsat University, so I'm a university lecturer and also had an opportunity to teach at a high school as well. So just to reflect everyone's point, the AI and also technology tide has already swept into the education system, especially in Thailand, where young people don't pick bioeconomy or bio-based research or bio-related education or anything. And especially in Thailand, where we have like excellent research in bioeconomy, we have different resources, we rich in bioresources, but they're just not interested. Even though they're already in the industry, they're already from the get-go, from the agriculture, they already do their farming every day, but they're leaving because they don't see the future. Like we ask them, oh, you should join us to do the bioeconomy project. Oh, this project is good, but what's next? What is their future that they can see? And especially if they're from agricultural background, they're hungry. What really feeds them is their future. How can we build a network? How can we connect them? They don't need to understand the word bioeconomy, but they need to know that they can be part of it, and that part leads their future to their success and their wealth. So I think this is what I would like to lead to this meeting. Thank you.
Applause, please. Wow. Okay, maybe we take two quick questions, and then our panelists want to react, and then we need to call in our last part and close this event.
Okay, thank you. I'm Mr. Ndi from Kenya. I've been involved in development of policies on various sectors, agriculture, trade, because I've been a leader in the private sector. I've been a leader for a Great Lake Private Sector Forum, which carries 12 countries in Africa. And mainly, I've been involved in mobilizing youth, especially in war-torn areas in Africa, and trying to enlighten them the importance of the environment within and the availability of economic factors that are within the component of environment. And therefore, I've been training them on education, environment education for sustainable development, which is bioeconomy. But the aspect of a youth, let me talk about African youth. He will only involve himself on what has a value on economic factors and how soon he's going to earn. If it is taking long, you will not engage them. Today here in Kenya, about 75% youth, they are struggling to get a job. The reason why I came here purposely, because my interest is about how do we open space, get opportunity of having a sustainable livelihood at household level. Bioeconomy is more understood in Europe. Today in Kenya is becoming as a bombshell, a new opportunity. But we have also a policy on biotechnology in the universities. They are being trained. But how do they use those skills for the purpose of earning a living is nothing. So I think for the success of policy, because I talk as a person who participated in developing various policies of the government, this is not easy. Because if you of education to develop that policy, it will bring other sectors involved to participate in that policy. It takes long because tomorrow you call for a meeting, you find the Department of Agriculture, nobody as a representative. You will not conclude matters that relate to agriculture in that discussion of the policy. The following day, you want a representative from the university or from the secondary schools heads, nobody representing. It takes time for you to pass that policy. But now, bioeconomy, it has already started movement. How do we take it up as we influence the policymakers? But what about ordinary person that you are targeting as a youth? What do we need to do to them?
Thank you. That is a great question to our youth. Before I let everyone give one last quick response, really quick, one sentence, so our panelists can start thinking, I just wanted to hear from our Minister of Youth and Education, because she has a burning question.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Ngozi. I'm from Nigeria. Actually, I just rounded on my thesis and I focused on the justice dimension of the bioeconomy strategies. I was looking at Costa Rica and South Africa, so that's why I wanted to ask. So because everyone there mentioned about policy support and how to be inclusive, I looked at a lot of strategies before I decided to choose this. And I looked at the East Africa bioeconomy strategy and that of South Africa and that of looking at Namibia. And when I look at it, I don't see, as an African, I don't see the problem that the bioeconomy will solve for us as African, because we talk about research and development, but we forget the local communities, the women, the people in the rural, and that is not reflected. And I'm very happy when we talked about the social dimension. So, like the professor said, when we talk about bioeconomy, we focus more on the gains. We don't look at the cost of this thing and if we don't bring the actual people that would sit on the table and talk about yes, we have benefit, but we also come at a cost because it's a transition. This is not what we have. But if we don't have this honest discussion and we don't contextualize it in the African sector, like the bioeconomy is from Europe, and then you look at it, we get support, like most African countries have developed their strategies, they get support from SCI or from the German. And then when you look at it, you see the Europe there, you don't see the African context of the bioeconomy. And if Africa needs to succeed, we need to develop a bioeconomy that has an African context. And Africa is large. I'm from Nigeria. It's not the same way that we approach bioeconomy that Kenyan we approach. And that's the beauty of bioeconomy, because it has a diverse definition. So why are we not reflecting this? So I don't want to look at the bioeconomy in Africa and it's Europe-based, because it would not work. We don't have the technology. We need to start from what we have to get it. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you. Thank you so much. That was really, really great. And thank you for highlighting the importance of contextualizing the bioeconomy and the different definitions out there. This is something that we often face too. So I want to close this session by asking all our panelists to give their final response in one sentence.
One.
Short sentence.
One.
So, Haley, you're first. Yes. Final response.
React. Like the important action point from these discussions today.
Oh, wow. Really hot seat.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would say the key main priority that I've gathered from this is youth involvement and actively. Not just to be a token, something to put on the fridge, a check mark, to really get our hands dirty. That is getting our hands dirty. That's my take.
Great. Lisa.
Okay, so my takeaway is that we should go back to our roots. We should go back to the local communities and give them a voice, empower them with bioeconomy.
Peter?
I would say we need more bioeconomy heroes, young bioeconomy heroes. I see many here in the room. I hope that many of the young bioeconomy heroes will end up implementing the bioeconomy by also being active on the ground in bioeconomy startups, and I hope that many of you will then be in the GBS in Ireland, involved in pitches presenting what you have innovated.
Great, thanks. Linda.
All right. I'm going to get a little political and talk from my American side. If Kamala Harris, who turned 60 two days ago, can be considered youthful, we can all work together, and act youthfully, right? You know, there's no divide. We really are partners, the young and the not so young. We can all work together and really vibrantly push the bioeconomy, because indeed it's the way of the future.
Linda, from my side, I think we are talking about global movement here. As we created climate movements, we have to create bioeconomy movement. So we have to win hearts of people with bioeconomy. So that's my first point. And the second point, I fully agree with Professor von Braun. There will be losers and there will be winners. We have to be realistic about this. And ultimately, the battles of bioeconomy will be won or lost on the ground. Therefore, we have to think about poverty agenda, development agenda, and ultimately rural transformation. This is bioeconomy.
I think echoing a lot of what the audience have said, I'm thinking along the same lines, that it's not really failures of policy that concern me today, although there are those stories, we could talk more about them, but really failures of imagination and knowing what the bioeconomy means. Bioeconomy's biggest weakness is its biggest strength, which is that it's such a broad category. It's working with the world we have, that everyone should get to play, and there will be winners and losers, but the winners and losers are those who didn't make the most of the opportunities that we've all been given. And at this point, young people don't need more information about bioeconomy. We need more formation from the people who are already doing it. We want to spend time with them. We want heroes in these spaces so that we will get involved in these projects. And we want to keep telling those stories for the generations to come who will be getting involved in bioeconomy. We don't follow ideas. We follow older men and women who then follow ideas. We want to have heroes in these spaces so that we can be like them. Everything I believe about youth, policy, religion, where I live, it's all shaped by people I've admired, loved, and wanted to be like. So I want more of those heroes in bioeconomy whose stories I can walk in as well, and then raise up another generation, thinking to carry on that torch further. So thank you.
Really great job. Before handing over to the hottest seat to summarize this in 5 key points, a warm applause for all our panelists and also for the audience. Thank you.
I think we can close this segment, and before we go to lunch, because we are all really hungry, I know, we would like to launch with the youth, we launch a call to action with main points from this discussion. So I'm calling on the stage now Isabella Garcia Caffaro from the ICGB and Lindsay Hook from the Work Forum.
Hi guys. Okay, so the call for action. We, the youth of today, stand at the forefront of bioeconomy transformative potential. Our vision for a sustainable future are not only innovative, but also essential to address global challenges like climate change, biodiversity loss, and food insecurity. However, to turn these visions into a reality, we need your support. We call on global leaders, policymakers, and industry to academic training. We want academic training in bioeconomy since primary education with specialized programs tailor-made to emphasize the application in local reality and the holistic definition in bioeconomy. Training in bioeconomy not only for young people, rural communities, and indigenous people, but also include ministers and population in general. Entrepreneurship training and innovation and entrepreneurship training, innovation, and ecosystem, and hubs and innovation hubs. Global collaboration to find ways to involve youth from the beginning, from the policymaking, youth delivery, and storytelling. Support youth networks to capture a global perspective by integrating visions. So that's my 5 points. I don't know if you have anything more to add.
So thank you so much. Something I appreciate about both of us up here together is that you come more from the policy side, more from the technical side, and I come more from the communications, the culture side, and the storytelling. So I think it's nice that we can kind of show what we both got out of this event as well. And something that I really like about what you said is how specific you were. And something in the World Food Forum and in the youth space in general that we're always talking about is that the youth should not be seen as a whiny collective of young people that are just complaining that our parents' generation left us, a world that's not so great. That's not what we're here to do. We're here to give very specific, very concrete policy asks, and we request and demand to be respected in those asks just of anyone else of any other age. So I'm really, really happy that we could really see the concreteness in what you're saying. And I'll just come in with another, let's say, 4 to 5 points of things that I heard today, which is diversifying many different things, from learning methods to making sure that we're addressing bioeconomy, maybe not just in Europe, but also in Africa, making sure that all of those voices are heard globally, because one definition does not fit all, of course. Making sure that we are storytelling, that we are the hometown heroes, because we can and are actively inspired all the time, just like George said, by the people that are above us. And we need to remember and would like to remind you all that you heroes are the ones that are also creating the heroes for the future. And we really appreciate your support and mentorship in that. The 2 wings was something that also stuck with me, having the policymaker wing and the local context wing to make those senior leaders really stand up. And I think being specific in our asks is another way that we can get them to sit up and listen to us. Finally, I would like to kind of use this moment as a memory. Now in the future that we are going to go to lunch, we're going to have our conversations. In 4 years from now, when we all come back to this summit where everyone is going to know what it is, I would like us to think about everything that we spoke about in this room. I haven't seen a side event, even after the World Food Forum last week, a side event this vibrant in probably ever. And I think that was partly to the people who organized it. So thank you very much to all of the organizers, but also to you in the audience. So all of the passion, all of the ideas and the action and the strength and the power that you all have, I want you to now go out and use this as a launch pad to make sure that you really do take action from that. And in 4 years, we'll see you all back here or somewhere else where we can discuss how we used the momentum that we created at this event to create change in the future, and then think about it and tell our kids about it. Thank you.